Alright, finally got my game working correctly, and here we are, ready to jump in. Got some replays from round 1 and round 2 already flowing in, so let's just cut straight to the action. We're going to start here with Human Boy, yes, versus Phoenix King. Human Boy coming in hot, of course, with the Scaven here. We've got Lord Skrulk, got some Poison Wind Globes, 4 of them, 3 Rattling Guns. Yeah, pretty intense. Quite a lot of range damage here. We've got some Rat Ogres. Wolf Rats protecting the flanks, some Ishin Triads as well, and some Clan Rat Spears up front. For Khorne here up against them, Phoenix King rocking these Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes. He's got some Flesh Hounds, Furies, looks like some Minotaurs with great weapons. Looks like dual hand weapon, Marauders, and regular Marauders mixed. So let's see here. These Khorne mobile units are immediately going to take a posturing position up on the flank. Kind of threaten the Scaven. And we're going to reorganize there. And, yeah, just start to fire in those Rattling Guns. Wow, just absolutely eliminating the code of those yeah, just the Furies. They're gone. They're completely gone. They turned into mist. Particularly red mist, like redder mist than normal, I would say. And, oof, these Rattling Guns here are making an absolute mockery, you might think, of this line, but the Minotaurs are not actually taking that much damage. Let's see as they start to punch through this. Oof, yeah, as they get close to those Rattling Guns, they're just going to take more and more damage. Might have actually got the players on this wrong. That's okay. We'll see who's who in the end, but regardless, those Rattling Guns just shredding Minotaurs up front. Some are starting to break through. We see some Poison Wind Globes getting engaged here. Valkia drops down on another Rattling Gun here. And the Khorne Horsemen, of course, are quite potent in melee with very good weapon strength and charge bonus. They can easily eliminate these weapons teams in melee combat or with their throwing axes, preferably with a combination of both. But a beautiful charge in here into those Rattling Guns, shutting them down, and suddenly things seem less threatening for Khorne. Was able to get through with some of these Marauders with dual hand weapons. Again, the anti-infantry bonus will help them tear apart those weapons teams in a big hurry. So just like that, a quick back and forth, and suddenly Khorne's got a pretty nice advantage in terms of the units on the battlefield. And I mean, 2.5 minutes, that's just, you know, Khorne rush builds for you in a nutshell. But it is interesting to see the initial kind of Daka start to fall apart a little bit, and the Khorne mobility and envelopment is enough to win it, potentially. We'll see. A lot of these missile units are already being mopped up pretty heavily, so it's looking like a quick victory for Khorne, but obviously Skrulk's still got plenty of HP left. He's still got some summons, no doubt, available to him, so let's see what they do. But, yeah, Valkia basically completely untouched. A lot of value damage was done to those Minotaurs, it must be said, but just some Triads protecting here. Don't have a lot of HP. We're going to see another summon get pulled up here. Some more Clan Rats attempting to aid the situation. But the Eshin Triads are not going to trade well at all with those Marauders' dual hand weapons. And, I mean, 40 weapon strength with an extra +5 bonus versus infantry is definitely solid enough to hit those Triads pretty hard, despite their physical resistance. Stand your ground are going to be pops to try and hold everything together, but it's, yeah, pretty apparent, despite the last stand of those Globadiers as well, out in the distance, just getting hammered by Khorne cavalry on the charge. Gotta say, I love Khorne Marauder Horsemen. They are so good. Out of all kind of hybrid missile melee cavalry, they are probably the most skewed towards melee, but at the same time, armor-piercing flaming missile damage is pretty legit as well. So yeah, that's going to be a quick victory for, I believe, Phoenix King. We'll just double-check that real quick. But we got some replays to get through, so let's fast-forward that. As Skrulk makes his final stand, he's going to pull a couple summons up. Where's Valkia? Valkia needs to come away from the edge of the map and hit Skrulk enough times that he loses leadership here, I think. But the Stinky Rowdy Boy is going to hold out for quite some time. There he goes, throwing in the towel. So, yeah, quick victory for Phoenix King, named Human Boy's cousin. Absolutely amazing. Love it. I love it. So let's go ahead and just switch to this so I'm not spoiling on replays. Those of you guys following along, and we will go to The next one, we've got Seagulls versus Rainy Frog. This was on the top of the bracket, so let's go ahead and just jump in here. I'm not going to necessarily cast every game from the tournament. I've got some of the replays. I don't necessarily have all the replays, but I can see we're getting already to the semifinals. So we'll just kind of follow in those. Yeah, we're still waiting on one semifinal to get ready. But I suppose they could just proceed on. We continue to cast from replays up until we get to the final. We should catch up at some point. And how quick these replays often go. But anyway, Rainy Frog coming in here with the Greenskins. Seagulls looking chill as ever with Kislev. Up front, some Horse Archers in the Vanguard. Got some Armored Kossars with some Winged Lancers backing them up. A Dread Bear squad here, of course. 2 War Bears, including the ROR and Katarina on foot. I say foot, she's actually on magical levitating ice, which is just amazing. The Greenskin side, nice wide build, lots of squigs and goblins, very cost effective. Swamp Things as well for some terror, Wurzag to juice things up, Hammer of Gork, and some Orc Boar Boy Biggins, Broken Tusk Mob as well. Over here, and more Orc Boar Boy Biggins, Mangy Marauders. So yeah, really widely distributed Greenskins army, and it does pose a little bit of a risk. Kislev cavalry counterattacks, just kind of try and strike various units and then pull back, but for the time being, Kislev is content to just kind of work off of their Horse Archers a little bit here. They're not going to do a lot of damage, especially the Broken Tusk Mob up at 100 armor. Regular Boar Boys at 85, take a little bit more. They are going to do some damage, but yeah, these Winged Lancers are definitely in for a tough time going head first into that engagement, but of course, brave Kislevits as they are, they fear no Greenskins. And the Kossars are also going to get enveloped by some squigs here, but the War Bears are going to punch through the center, start to mop up squigs, and just roll units up very quickly. Should be able to shock through, yeah, those Dervishes. Really nice charge on those AP Gloons, and it doesn't look like they got their Fanatics cast off in time. So, nice back and forth so far, I will say. Greenskins loading up heavily on their right flank, getting ready to rush in with some squigs and the trolls and everything else. Looks like the Swamp Things stopped just short. They're going to eat a bunch of bullets straight to the face, which is most uncomfortable, but Horse Archers also staying alive, staying loose out in space. We're going to see a little Heart of Winter get activated here. It's only hitting a couple of cheap units, though. I don't know if this is necessarily the best magic uses, especially where the Warbear Riders were able to come in and collapse that anyway. This other blob on the opposite side has a lot more value in it. There's like many goblins over blobbed right here. That's okay, though. Greenskins got WA active. They've got a big old power spike, and a lot of Kislev's units are already enveloped in melee with armor-piercing troops, which is not where they want to be necessarily. But this bear squad's going to be really tough for the Greenskins to kill, and they've managed to isolate now this Broken Tusk Mob, get rid of these supporting goblins and squigs. Now the Broken Tusk Mob are at serious risk. It looks like the Warbears instead, though, are going to go after the Oath Brothers here, are going to go after Wurzag, try and get a snipe on the Greenskins leadership, but a nice kind of rear charge, FG to get there, and a beautiful rear charge here from these Orc Boarboy Biggins. Oath Brothers are still quite tough. They're going to hold out relatively well from this, but they're poisoned. They're taking direct damage from the effigy there. We're going to see buff, yeah, Fists of Gork on those Orc Boarboy Biggins, help them trade up 58-50 on attack and defense with the extra plus 12 bonus versus large. Definitely have the stats to compete with the Oath Brothers there, all juiced up, and Wurzag showing his value as a support lord, but of course there's still more Warbear Riders to come in and collapse, and it's going to be an overwhelming amount of value for those Orc Boarboy Biggins to try and hold up. That said, the rest of the battlefield here looks like the squigs managed to overwhelm the flank here and are sort of wrapping up a number of infantry units. Could perhaps detach those other Orc Boarboy Biggins to come help this critical cavalry engagement. Likewise, the Broken Tusk Mob should probably also come just rear charge these boars, or the bears rather. Boars versus bears today. The bears are starting to win out due to their healing, and oof, Wurzag manages to escape. Looks like, yeah, that Orc Boarboy Biggin unit does get shattered completely. And the Broken Tusk Mob moving in a little bit late, where now the boars can focus their attacks on them. Here we go, does still hit them, though, which is interesting. Another WA being popped as well. And again, Greenskins kind of overblobbing a little bit here. with the goblins and the squigs on that side, but it's still anyone's game at this point. I've been absolutely slugging. Got these swamp things regaining some HP and leadership in the back, and kind of just hang around with them maybe a little bit and help them heal up. The Boar Boy Biggins, though, being thrown in piecemeal is, I think, going to end up costing the Greenskins here. Each one kind of engaged one by one on these Warbear Riders, and now, as a result, all three of them have been eaten up. And I don't think the Squigs and Goblins are going to be enough to defeat Warbear Riders. I mean, we'll see. It looks like Wurzag is actually on foot, so he won't be subject to their anti-large bonus, but another Fist of Gork there on some wavering Squig herds. So they try and eat up some armored Kossars. But Greenskins just generally having a tough time with these Warbear Riders. Of course, the healing from the Patriarch is also super important. Gonna see another Heart of Winter get cast here. This one actually does hit a good amount of what's left of the Greenskins army all at once, especially with these goblins kind of running in to that area of effect. Oath Brothers drop their bombardment, and it's looking quite promising for the Sons of Kislev. Yeah, the Oath Brothers there standing firm, and it looks like Kislev gonna pull out the win. Rainy Frog thrown in the towel, so congrats to Seagulls. Well played to both players, honestly. I think Rainy Frog just not quite getting the right opportunities, bringing the full, boar house at the same time, bringing the whole, container of bacon, if you will. It ended up costing him, but overall, really like this build. A lot of very cost-effective units. Wurzag definitely helps. Katarina also surprisingly cost-effective on foot. You're able to, Skizlev here was able to afford a reasonably wide army despite investing pretty heavily in these elite monstrous cavalry. So fun stuff. Let's go ahead and get on to the next replay. Bear with me just 1 second while I get it all queued up. And we're going to go to... see here. Got one more from round one. Let's do Cool Umbrella versus Strat Game. And it's going to be Demons versus Greenskins. So some more Green Tide Strat Game, investing in a very interesting Demons build. The fact that they can take the generic greater demons and the heralds also definitely opens up a lot more options for the demons. Here we see the exalted great unclean one, who will act as a very strong and tough to kill mortis type unit. Doesn't look like Cool Umbrella has brought any ranged units really, which is going to be interesting. No demons have missile block chance, and so they tend to be pretty vulnerable to missiles. Tend to be low armor, no missile block chance, so it'd be interesting to maybe see some skirmish cavalry in this matchup, perhaps from the Greenskins, but instead, Cool Umbrella just going with a full-out melee rush. He's got goblins, he's got some night goblins, I'd imagine with fanatics, probably. Some squig hoppers as well, some boar boy biggins out to the flanks, and spider riders. So just full-on, lots of cavalry rush here. Whereas the demons are taking more of a defense position. They've got a couple of pink horrors here, front line of plague bearers with some nurglings out on the flanks, plus toads. Also 4 flesh hounds, very strong unit for the cost, so no surprises there. And the Exalted Great and Clean one here in the center, rocking his direct damage aura, of course. And looks like Fleshy Abundance, Rancid Visitations. Azag staying well clear right now. Has Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna, plus Aspect of Dread Knight, which is pretty interesting. I guess don't necessarily need the terror against demons, but I guess it's more to give a unit immune to psychology, maybe? Not really sure. Or the magic damage, I guess. Does it actually imbue magic damage on melee attacks? Anyway. Yeah, the frontline engagement's going to get started. A little bit interesting here. The toads actually come and kind of counterattack the squigs, which doesn't necessarily go great for them. It's going okay, actually, in some pockets where they're able to get involved with those night goblins, help use their mass and anti-infantry damage to good effect. Yeah, squig hoppers are also just not doing a terrible amount of damage themselves either, but boars now starting to collapse here. Flesh hounds responding. We've got spider riders also. It's just a big melee mess at this point, as the Greenskins go for a full envelopment with their cavalry. See if they have the staying power to sustain this assault against these demonic units. honestly have no idea how this is going to go. Plague Bears are quite tanky, but nice Fanatics cast here. Demons have certainly set themselves up for potential nasty Fanatics, given their kind of positioning here in a somewhat blocky formation. We see another one being unleashed through these Plague Bears as well. Very nicely done. Huge amount of disruption and damage. That said, this Exalted Great Unclean One's basically taking no damage. Orc Boar begins kind of being keeping in a reserve for the time being, but it looks like they are going to get deployed here to shut down these Flesh Hounds, perhaps, in the back line. Maybe try and get on those Pink Horrors as well. But it might be smart to try and conserve some of the Broken Tusk Mob, and the Orc Boar begins to try and cycle charge the Exalted Great Unclean One in the late game, especially with Azag. But Azag also hasn't really been casting too many spells here. He's probably got a lot of Spirit Leeches available to try and take down the Exalted Great Unclean One, who's desperately throwing a heal here to try and keep these Pink Horrors and Nurglings surviving. But the Greenskins' punching power is proving to be quite a lot to deal with. Even these Goblins and, Squig Hoppers trading very cost-effectively with the Plague Bears. More Fanatics being unleashed. So let's get in Cinematic Cam and soak up some beautiful, disgusting action. This Exalted Great Unclean One can carry this game by himself to a degree. I mean, if he's completely surrounded, he's going to have some problems, but for the time being, he does manage to persevere, and these Flesh Hounds and other units are holding out okay. Terror is definitely going to become an issue for the Greenskins as the game wears on. We see even the Broken Tusk Mob there getting terrified away, so it's also smart to keep Azag away. Don't let him get damaged too much by that Rancid Visitations. Definitely a very strong direct damage spell, comparable to something like Spirit Leech, but yeah, let's see. It's going to be an interesting one. Thrones of Decay should be good. Definitely should be good. Definitely curious to see. I know they released a little teaser about the Tzeentch Cathay Kislev DLC. And there was a leak as well. I'm not going to talk about it today, but if you want to find it, you can go find it. Also not going to talk about how accurate it may or may not be. All in good time. But yeah, it's got some good stuff coming up, I would say. We're going to go ahead and dip into fast forward, as it looks like it's going to be pretty much the Exalted Great Unclean One versus the world as foreseen. These Pinks are also surviving a surprisingly long amount of time. I'm not really sure. Maybe they aren't being targeted directly by the Greenskins units here, but Spider Riders charge in and they're able to just about finish things off, but actually not quite. Nurglings surviving and the Pinks continuing to survive as well. Their leadership is just high enough. They basically fight until the end, more or less. But once it's over, it's going to be tough going here for the Exalted Great Unclean One. He's getting some Fleshy Abundance, heal himself back up. Greenskins having some problems keeping their units on the field, though. Terror could be an issue. Let's see, we've got some Broken Tusk Mob there. Aspect of Dread Knight to give them terror, so they're also immune to psychology and magic damage, so they'll do a lot more damage to the Exalted Great Unclean One. We see the Spirit Leeches starting to come in there from Azag, so I think Cool Umbrella's got enough resources to finish this one off, but we'll see. Azag's going for another cycle charge run here, starting to get involved in melee, but another Fleshy Abundance. And all that damage that was done to the Exalted Great Unclean One is just going to be undone, so definitely feeling pretty disgusting at this point, but the Exalted Great Unclean One is at its healing cap, so question is, can Azag defeat it with relatively little support, because of course he does have basically no units left to fight with him. There's more Spirit Leeches though. Will definitely contribute to Azag starting to pull ahead. Let's see, he's got about 5,000 HP. Even still, in terms of raw numbers, the Exalted Great Unclean One technically has more. But Azag's support units, of course, will contribute slightly until they all get terrified away. Oof, nasty Rancid Visitations. The timing of that is really devastating for Azag, as he's going to start to lose leadership here, and it looks like the Demons might pull this one out. Azag doing his best to try and cycle charge for the win here, but another Aspect of Dread Knight, it looks like, just to give himself some magical attacks, and I don't think Azag has enough HP to finish this one. Yeah. Exalt the Great Unclean One actually ends up carrying, so Strat Game comes home with the win there. And yeah, that Exalted Great Unclean One, absolutely disgusting. It's basically just like Kugath, but for a little bit, less cost. Doesn't have the ranged attack, but functionally very similar. Ends up just carrying the game by himself here, which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I have some thoughts about that, but it's totally fine. Let's go ahead and move on to the next lobby here. And, bear with me just 1 second, okay. Go to the replays, and I'm going to skip a few that were sent to me. I might end up postcasting them and posting them, you know, throughout this upcoming week. But we've got now, let's see here. Let's go to some round 2 games. So let's see. Okay, so we're going to check back in with Phoenix King. He's up against Trader GG. We'll go ahead and switch to this one. We've got Cathay versus Chaos Dwarfs. Miao Ying coming in with a very basic build, I will say, to a degree, for Jade Warriors, 5 Spears, 4 Crane Gunners, some Snipers, of course, 2 Heavy Cavalry, 2 Jade Lancers, and 2 Light Cavalry in the Peasant Horsemen. As for the other side, we do see a Dread Train, which I haven't covered that much this patch. They are hilariously broken. I've talked about them just a tiny bit, but we've got the Demon's Tongue, Iron Demon here, and Jatin the Black leading the way. Demon Smith's Sorcerer with 3 Hobgoblin Archers. We've got the Blazing Beards of Bazook up front, and Infernal Ironsworn, 3 of them. Plus, yeah, some more Hobgoblin Archers. 5 Hobgoblin Archers in total, with some Laborers kind of protecting the flanks as meat shields. So then for, yeah, we already talked about Cathay. They're going to be teeing up those Crane Gunners immediately to start picking away at the very expensive Infernal Ironsworn. But Ironsworn are tanky enough. They should be able to eat this damage and still get into contact with plenty of killing power left. But let's see. A lot of Cathayan stuff here. Miao Ying, of course, going to be rocking Talons of the Night and Earth Regrowths here specifically. So Talons of the Night should be really good at helping to nuke those elite infantry. The problem here is going to be the train. Right now it's completely unaccounted for and just roving about this flank, looking to unleash its mobile flamethrower on these poor unsuspecting Cathayans. Let's see, what is Miao doing? That is the question. Rain guns once again getting set up to fire. Get some more volleys into the Infernal Ironsworn. Yeah, just a straight up rush build is relatively effective here, and it looks like not a lot of anti-large to stop Miao Ying herself from just doing whatever she wants to. So she's going to come in and get a little cycle charge going on those Infernal Ironsworn. We can see the Jade Lancers also sensing an opportunity to get these unprotected Hobgoblin Archers a beautiful charge down the hill. Help smash them very quickly. The relatively immobile Chaos Dwarf infantry slow to respond, but the Demon's Tongue threatening this flank as ever. The Crane Gunners are too focused on, well, not too focused. They should be focused on the Ironsworn, to be honest. But, yeah, the train is now looming on the flank here. Let's kind of keep the overall battlefield. Brutal Burning Head as well in the back there. Let's keep it all in view. Wow, that Burning Head went so far. Holy cow. Ran all the way up into these Jade Warriors. That was pretty good RNG, honestly. But then the Flamethrower from the Demon's Tongue. Here we go. Nice little flank attack from these Peasant Horsemen as well. Able to get and disrupt those Hobgoblin Archers, even though the Goblin Laborers look to be interrupting. Yeah, here comes the Choo-Choo. Peasant Spearmen are not really going to do much to stop that. If you check back in the front line here, the Chaos Dwarfs are actually suffering pretty badly. The Ironsworn ended up taking a lot of damage here. Peasant Horsemen, Jade Lancers working together to break a lot of the Hobgoblin Archers. And the Jade Warriors also providing, obviously, a nice infantry backbone here. So it's actually going pretty well for Cathay in the front line. But the Choo-Choo, man. The Demon Choo-Choo here is going to be a problem. Oof, that brutal flamethrower up close just does an insane amount of damage. Yeah, those Crane Gunners taking a beating already. Crane guns do finally switch on to the Demon's Tongue here, and those that survive are trying their best to take it down at a distance. Of course, as long as the Demonsmith Sorcerer is alive, he can heal it back up. Yao Ying's going to try her best to take him out. But despite the losses they've taken, obviously Infernal Ironsworn are still Infernal Ironsworn. They're going to fight pretty much until the bitter end. So they'll all hang on and continue grinding here. But yeah, Demon's Tongue, once it does get focused by those crane guns, actually takes significant damage very quickly. And so with that value now firmly in their favor, it's looking pretty good for Cathay here. Yes, let's see. Apologies, just want to make sure I have my stuff up here. Oh, don't worry, Seagulls. I'll get some more of yours. Yeah, Miao Ying is going to be netted here, and Jatan going to try and close the distance. The Demon's Tongue, though, is still within range of these crane guns. Honestly, I might pull it away here and try and even like bail out the Demonsmith Sorcerer with the Demon's Tongue so that it could perhaps heal it a little bit here. Did he actually bring the heal? He did. He still got one use of it as well, so yeah, it would be really nice if the Demon's Tongue could come to burminate these Jade Lancers and get the Demonsmith back. Unfortunately, it's not to be, and the crane guns do take it down, and with that thing's demise, I'm not seeing a lot of chances for the Chaos Dwarfs to actually come home with the win here. The crane guns are going to be able to shred these Bazook Beards, even though their grenades also just ruining those poor peasant long spears. These peasant long spears have been dutifully holding the line, waiting for Miao Ying to arrive, and now she's here to try and finish off the last of this unit of Ironsworn. Hey, good to see you, Romulan Dog. Looking pretty good for Cathay right now. Chaos Dwarfs are making their final push. Managed to get some laborers in the back line there to disrupt momentarily, but so many crane guns still left alive. It's going to be a big problem. So let's fast forward. We've got some more replays to get to as we kind of finish up this end game here. Will take some time. The crane guns eventually, yeah, just start to focus down. One Infernal Ironsworn, then the next, then the Beards, and slowly but surely going to take home the win. I would think, I mean, there's still a possibility, I guess, that Miao Ying could like take a bunch of damage from Jatan and end up losing it, but I don't think so. Blazing Beard's also going to get sandwiched by double Peasant Longspear envelopment, which is not a fun place to be, but as soon as one Peasant Longspear breaks, just going to get shot in the back by those crane guns there. Miao Ying transforms just so that she can get a regrowth on herself. She is taking flaming damage from the Infernal Ironsworn, so that is going to reduce the amount of healing she received from that, but still, it's good to get some healing in the tank and, you know, not have too much risk of Miao Ying getting killed here. That would definitely be a problem for Cathay's leadership, but very quickly, Chaos Dwarfs are going to run into army losses, and there you go. Phoenix King able to take another win there. Cathay off of the Chaos Dwarfs. Definitely an interesting one, but those crane guns, man, so strong. I thought the Choo Choo for sure would be able to take it out, but honestly, in hindsight, it wasn't very well supported. Would have liked to have seen some light cavalry, some hobgoblin cavalry to support that mobility engagement and help kind of draw some of the peasant long spears away, actually chase some of the routing crane gunners off so they couldn't come back from rout. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get to the next replay. We're just going to keep cruising on through at this point. So let me just take a look at the bracket and see what kind of relevant replays we can get to. Let's see here. Let's do Lamb Sauce King. I haven't casted any of theirs yet, so let's go ahead and get... hang on. Yes. Just making sure. Some replays I got from both players, so I'm like, oh, okay, this is the same replay. Okay, just a second, guys. Alright, here we go. Lamb Sauce King versus Sir Groot. Lamb Sauce King did prevail over Anti-Kaiju in round 1, which I don't have the replay for. I might postcast it if I do get the replay, but now we're here with the Empire versus the Vampire counts, and you already know Gerst Sauce King here. Lamb Sauce has got my seal of approval. Karl Franz, Royal Altdorf Griphites, War Wagons, some Huntsmen mixed in here, plenty of Empire infantry. Build's definitely got my seal of approval, despite being Pistolier free. The War Wagons, Karl, and the Altdorf Griphites definitely make up for it. As for the foul undead opposing them, Manfred von Karstein with 4 Vargeist. Vargeist have been super popular pick for people to bring lately, but I rarely see them actually perform. It's super interesting to me. I don't know. I prefer Vampire Cavalry personally, but regardless, we've got some Cairn Wraiths as well, 4 Cairn Wraiths, plus some Direwolves and Zombies up front, so pretty interesting, I will say. Yes, finally, some Empire. War Wagons, of course. Priority target number 1 by far is going to be to dome Manfred's dome. It's a pretty easy target to hit, given how bright and shining it is out in the distance. Little disruption charge on those zombies. Love to see that from the War Wagons. Kind of baiting Dire Pack out. Altdorf Griphites are a little bit of an overkill response just to some Dire Pack, but still some nice kind of baiting by both sides. Masterfully so, you might say. Fast forward a little bit through this initial phase. As the War Wagons kite it out a little bit, they're going to take some damage from the Dire Pack here. Eventually, though, Karl and the Demis do actually make some contact. They've got to be careful of these Cairn Wraiths, though. The Cairn Wraiths, obviously, huge amounts of armor-piercing damage, plus Frostbite means a bad time for those Demigryph Knights or the War Wagons, should they be caught. But they are able to fully screen through the lines here, it looks like. Not take any damage from that. They'll just allow the state troops to fight the Cairn Wraiths. They're going to do a much more cost-effective job at it. Magic damage-wise, this Empire build doesn't actually have much, so I'm a little bit worried about the ability to kill the Cairn Wraiths, but honestly, state troops just in great numbers should be able to get the job done. Oh, man. The Vargeist just zerging into the Huntsmen. I'm not sure exactly what reason, but Karl also getting multi-charged here, gets engaged with Manfred and some Vargeist. Honestly, this is just fine for Karl, though. He's going to pop his buffs and just take the fight straight up. It's also within War Wagon range, so War Wagons right now looks like they're actually focusing the Vargeist. Could be focusing Manfred also, but some Halberds going to reorganize, get in here to help shore up defenses against the Vargeist. And yeah, already, again, we see them struggling to perform. I'm really not the biggest fan of Vargeist. I don't know why people really love to bring them as much as they do, but there you go. Empire player kind of making a little bit of a defensive backline here to prevent themselves from getting rear charged, and the Cairn Wraiths are starting to beat down some state troops. Looks like one Cairn Wraith's having a little bit of problems, but the rest of them are winning out. And I definitely think from the Vargeist perspective, I don't really know, like, what's the best target you could go after here? Maybe just a rear charge, like shock rear charge all across the line, some of the swordsmen here, get them off the field and allow the zombies and Cairn Wraiths to start to envelop some more of the anti-large infantry for the Empire. But yeah, going to see a nice Earthblood go off here, heal up Karl and these spearmen who are themselves routing off, but that's fine. As long as Karl's staying healthy and the War Wagons keep shooting, that's pretty much what's going to determine the win. Obviously, the Altdorf fights as well. They really honestly don't have a lot of threats. I mean, besides getting bogged down in Cairn Wraiths and zombies, it's honestly probably the most threatening thing. I don't see, I mean, maybe the vast Vargeist, if they were to all multi-charge, the Altdorf fights could be dangerous, but right now, they are not doing so. And, yeah, Manfred trying to pull away there. Invocation of Nehek on himself to heal himself back up. Gonna have to be careful. Karl's definitely looming at this point. But the zombie summons can only do so much when your mobile units are all in these armored wagons. You can continue firing even while engaged in melee, of course. And the Altdorf fight's very close to protect against possible Vargeist incursions. Meanwhile, all the time that the Vargeist are hesitating, the War Wagons can continue plinking them out of the sky and accruing that sweet, sweet value. But see, this right here, this is probably what the Vargheists should have been doing the whole time, which is just hammer and anviling all of these Empire infantry to smithereens. Instead, they seem to be kind of dithering a little bit and not really sure where they should go. But even though the Empire infantry aren't super high value, yeah, I mean, multi-charging them is going to be super effective. You can see here this Halberdier just gets crushed and instantly terror-routed. So, I mean, the Vargheists should have been doing this the entire game, and they probably could have wrapped up a lot of the Empire infantry already. Instead they were kind of, you know, trying to go after those Huntsmen, trying to go after the War Wagons, when really those units, honestly, the War Wagons, at this point, probably the Vampire Count's best bet is just to out-heal the damage. There's only 2 of them, which is a decent amount, but yeah, it might be too late as a lot of the Vampire Count support units are starting to run out of steam. Khorne race can only do so much given they don't have a ton of HP. They are starting to get worked through a little bit here. Regrowth on the Royal Altar Cryphites. They're juiced up with Reichland Runefang right now as well. Such a great item, just giving all these Empire units extra melee attack. They can cut through those skeletons and Khorne race that much better. Little Spirit Leech now on Karl. He gets weirdly isolated here, and again, the Vargheists don't necessarily take an opportunity, or maybe they're trying to, but the pathing is just not there. So they fail to actually get a full surround on Karl, and he is able to get back out of that situation with relatively little consequences. So the classic Empire mobile kind of Hussite wagon fort with wagons and the halberds in a square. Classic Empire formation in this matchup. Finally, we see some breath attacks from Manfred as well, starting to thin out some of this Empire infantry, but Vampires are quickly running out of value. There's no corpse carts or passive healing to support the assault, so again, I really think you just cut some of the Vargheists and take more useful units. I don't know. I'm not a Vampire Counts main. In fact, I'm a well-known Vampire Counts hater, but in order to beat something, you have to understand it. So I would say I have a fair understanding of Vampire Counts. And it's just odd for me to see so much Vargheists in competitive play. It really is. But Fate Abuna there, going to try and destroy the Royal Altar Cryphites. That is certainly an effective way of killing them off. Problem is, they've pretty much done their job already. Karl doesn't need their help to kill Manfred. He can certainly do it on his own, and the Vargheists are gone. So that's pretty much going to be game for the Vampire Counts, as the wagons can just sit and shoot now. Karl can just kind of defend the wagons, help his troops kill the Khorne race. Not even really have to worry too much about Manfred until finally he comes in to meet his doom. So there you go. Beautiful Empire victory. Big up Salam Sauce for beating down Vampire Counts. I certainly appreciate it, but don't look at those. Don't look at the replays. Anyway, let's go on to one more from round 2, and then we'll get on to the semifinals. We're going to watch Seagauze versus Fat Kid at Recess. And let's see here. Yes, so going to be some more Kislev, as Seagauze mentioned. Fat Kid at Recess coming in with the legendary Lizardmen. So we're getting some nice faction variety today. I certainly appreciate that. Always nice when you get lots of different factions. But a big wide lizard build. We've got 5 red crests, 5 cohort with javelins, a rev crystal, and a rare feral Bastildon, Salon of Life, and some cold one riders, and some feral cold ones as well. Kislev, again, we see the Central Bear Squad. Very similar build to last time, with Katarina on foot and the Patriarch. This time, though, we've got a big old elemental bear, the Frozen Heart of Winter Regiment of Renown. Got some armored Kossars up front. Kossar Spears is the second line. Looks like some sneaky chameleons out on the flanks there. Definitely come in and cause some problems for those Kossars, but the Spears are nice in this matchup, certainly do help contribute against those nasty cold ones, but let's see how they do. I like the pick of the red crest here. Ostensibly, you need the armor piercing to trade well into the armored Kossars, but I probably wouldn't lead with them. I'd probably lead with Javelin Skinks, honestly, so that they can take that damage, that initial volleys of the pistols there, as one red crest is pretty much already done for. They really don't have the best leadership or defensive stats. And in fact, 2 red crests now on the counterattack are just immediately broken. So it's going to cause some problems. We see already some explosion damage as well for the Lizardmen, starting to disrupt their javelins. And the javelins, I mean, they're decent, but they're pretty cheap. I don't know that you really need to prioritize protecting them as much as the lizards are here. And already lizards are having some serious troubles as the Rev Crystal gets engaged in melee here. The Feral Bastildon trying its best to follow up, but there's really just not a lot of damage components from the Lizardmen here. They were relying quite a bit on those red crests, and so having them just get crushed so immediately is definitely a problem. The chameleons are also not quite in range to actually fire here. A little bit of a mistake there, but looks like we're going to see another Frozen Heart of Winter. Or, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Heart of Winter. Just Heart of Winter. Hits some of these skinks there. Hits some of the Feral Cold ones as well. Lizardmen are starting to punch back to a degree. These Warbear Riders getting swallowed up by Feral Cold ones and Cold One Riders are able to accrue back some value here. The Rev Crystal also should be able to heal and get back in the fight. Lizardmen certainly have plenty of healing in this build to try and sustain, but let's see how things go. The Chameleon Skinks are now in combat contributing. I like them whittling down Cathay. That's a pretty good call, although she can heal back up by running near the Patriarch. Still. Yeah, the Chameleon Skinks, I don't know. I like the idea of shooting at Cathay. I would probably be shooting at the Armored Cossars or the Warbear Riders, but it looks like Lizardmen are starting to stabilize somewhat here. The Rev Crystal is at least back. But that big bear, man, it's going to be a problem. Lizardmen really don't have any options to deal with it, and just in general, starting to run out of steam pretty quickly. So I'm not trying to call it too early, but I do think this is Kislev's game, certainly. Yeah, it's not looking particularly great, although they are starting to stabilize somewhat here in the center. This Lizardmen getting some troops back together here, getting the Red Crest kind of all teamed up, but way overblobbed on the Wraith of the Frozen Heart. Nice javelin volleys, finally, and certainly when the javelins can get volleys onto the right targets, like those regular Kossars, they'll do a lot of damage, but just, yeah. Better to take the damage on the javelins, certainly, than on the Red Crests. Let's see. Feral Cold ones, Red Crest still trying to cut through these Armored Kossars on the flanks. Millions get kind of smashed up by the Kislev cavalry with nothing to protect them out in this vulnerable flank position. Let's see. Yeah, not looking too great, honestly, for the Lizards, but they're holding on for the time being. Not going quietly into that good night. Rev Crystal looks like it's already almost at its healing cap. This is going to be a nice Heart of Winter, as it's going to hit a bunch of different units, including several infantry units. A lot of them are going to have a hard time getting away because of the Frozen Heart of Winter here, this big bear with multiple slowing effects, making those skinks have a much harder time getting out of that area of effect, which in and of itself will also slow. So yeah, a lot of different things working against the skinks, down to only 14 speed as they struggle to get away there. And it's some nice value from Cathay on that cast. She's up to 70 kills, almost 1,000 damage value. Pretty good stuff for how cheap she is on foot with just a relatively basic spell kit. AoE damage explosion too that she's got, it's pretty good. That Frostfang castable at a range, we saw that initial disruption, very important to get the Red Crests off the field. So not it's a tough day for the Lizardmen for sure. Didn't necessarily have the right build to combat what was brought here. And thinking about this matchup, you know, I actually don't have a ton of experience in it, but I would think Temple Guards would probably be a pretty good unit to work after, or work through. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, yeah, I need to think about this a little bit from the Lizardman side. I don't necessarily totally hate this build. It's just lacking in a little bit of the damage component, I think. And like I said, definitely lead with the Javelins rather than leading with the Red Crests. Even still, I don't know, Red Crests, I guess, they don't get shot up too much on the approach. They can probably beat Armored Cossars, but I would need to test that. They might still just lose to Armored Cossars, which would be pretty cost inefficient. But yeah, Saurus are also an option in this matchup. They do take a lot of damage from missiles often, but it's an interesting one for sure. Yeah, Kislev, definitely the bear blob is quite strong as ever, and support units also do a reasonably decent job here. So let's go ahead now and get to some of the semi-final rounds. I believe one of them is actually ongoing as we speak, but let's see. Okay. Yes, let's go ahead and now join with Seagauze and Lamb Sauce King as they battle it out in the semifinals. Strat Game versus Phoenix King are awaiting in the other bracket, so we'll real quick get this. All right. Just make sure, yes, that we're actually showing the game. Okay. So this time we've got Vampire Coast versus the High Elves. So again, some nice faction variety today. Noctilus leading the way. We've got some animated hulks, plenty of zombie gun mobs, handgun mobs. Interesting for armor-piercing damage. Some pistol mobs up front and some regular deckhands. Yeah, a bunch of mortars, 4 mortars. It's an interesting call, but probably the right one, given the High Elves' propensity to take huge amounts of archers in this matchup. Animated hulks, as I said. Got the Lambrew's Revenge pretty much in every single Vampire Coast build these days, and most days. For the High Elves, Archmage at Fire. We've got some Silver Helms and Reavers out on this flank. I'd imagine the same thing over here. Yep. Bunch of archers and Lothern Seaguard already getting blasted by those mortars, and some spearmen up front. So nice wide, kind of a quote-unquote low-tier early campaign High Elf build here. And let's see how it does. The Pick of Fire is definitely a good one, but this High Elf build does lack single entity killing power, especially for somebody like Noctilus, who's an infantry single entity. They really don't have an answer for killing him directly, but that fire, man, brutal stuff as the Burning Head rips through, and likewise on the High Elf side, multiple archer units being routed off already between the mortars and the handguns. Brutal stuff indeed. Oof, direct hit right into the center of those stacked up Lothern Seaguard. Double stacked 2 for 1, so that mortar's just getting massive amounts of value. And here the archers should be shooting the mortars. Yes, absolutely. And more than that, the archers should be focus firing on the mortars. Yeah, looks like they're trying to do so, but they've taken so much damage on the approach, they can't actually amass enough density of fire to actually kill the mortars, which is a pretty big problem from the outset. It's going to put the High Elves on the back foot immediately. So let's see if the Reavers are able to get through. It does look like finally they've shut down one mortar here, but will it be too little too late? A lot of these High Elf archers did survive, but they're down below half their models in many cases. So it's going to be tough for them. Reavers kind of cycling in and out here. Do manage to shut down 1 mortar, 2 mortars. So just 2 mortars still left alive. Zombie handguns are also not going to be a match at all for any of the High Elf troops in melee. So as long as they get wrapped up, should be just fine there. High Elves starting to amass a nice kind of density of troops. Try and focus fire. Start to pick through some of these different targets. Animated hulks would be a great target once these mortars are shut down, which it looks like both are pretty effectively shut down. This one maybe not. Burning Head wasn't quite enough to finish off its crew. This other one is done, though. Yeah, that mortar's crumbling there. So these archers definitely need to focus and finish this mortar off as soon as possible, but I don't have their targeting orders necessarily. I don't know if they're actually focusing a specific target or if they're all just being left on fire at will right now, which ultimately is going to be a pretty big mistake. High Elves need to focus fire and try and just work targets down as quickly as possible, rather than spreading their fire around and allowing lots of uptime for their enemies to accrue value. Like this mortar, for example, still alive and still firing, even as the Archmage charges in to try and finish it off. See a few stray arrows firing in here, but like all these arrows, one volley would be enough with all the archers focusing to shut this thing down. But eventually they do start to focus the animated hulks. From a balance of powers perspective, High Elves seem to be in a pretty bad position, but from an actual battlefield perspective, yeah, I'm not so sure. Another nice burning head, going to cut through some of those summoned deckhands there, and try and finish off some of the handgun mobs as well. Animated hulks getting screened deftly by spears, and the Sea Guards and other archer units just kind of firing at whatever. They are accruing value, it must be said, but Lamprey's Revenge are going to push forward and try and wrap some of these units up. It's a risky play for sure, because they are going to be somewhat isolated. And hopefully the High Elves actually do focus all their missiles on one target here. It looks like they probably are doing so now. But even still, the armor of the Lamprey's Revenge, 120 armor, is pretty serious. And since the High Elves have taken so much damage already, it's going to be a problem. Not to mention, the Lamprey's Revenge also have guns, and they will fire their shotguns as they're advancing here. Which means even if the High Elves were to try and kite a little bit here, they're still going to be taking damage as they maneuver, and it's just not looking great. Little Melkoth Mystifying Miasma from Noctilus now routes off one unit, and it comes down to just a handful of High Elves against all of this foul Vampire Coast. Not looking great. We're going to fast forward a little bit more. Jade Sea Pirates, I believe, is the emblem on this one. One of my favorites, for sure. But Noctilus, surprisingly enough, is not quite able to finish the job here. Those animated hulks getting engaged on spears, not necessarily great for them. And a few archers do come back from rout. They're going to contribute a little bit of damage over time. There's still just so many of these hulks and Lamprey's Revenge, though. And Lamprey's Revenge in particular, like, yes, they're taking some damage, but they also, with their own regeneration, will be able to heal through a lot of that damage. Looking good right now, though. Let's see. Yep, looks like the High Elf player are going to go ahead and throw in the towel, which is totally understandable. But, yeah, Seagaw's taking home the win there. Lamb Sauce King, I admire what he tried to do with his build. Ultimately, I think probably you just need like death or something to have more single target damage in this build, and then just focus firing with the archers a little bit more efficiently to try and burst targets down faster would be the only thing. But it's definitely an interesting one. This build, I mean, if you can protect these mortars, they'll definitely work greatly in your favor. So we do see that there. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next. Are they actually? Let's see here. Okay, so Strat Games sent me the replay now for their semi-match. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. All right. We've got Strat Game versus Phoenix King, and it's Dark Elves versus High Elves. So even more faction variety for today. It's double Manticore and Dragon Sorceress, so quite a bit of flying power here from the Dark Elves. Got the Cairns of Cain as well, some Witch Elves in the back, Corsairs, this is the second line, and some front screens on the flanks, some Dread Spears, and Dark Riders as well. As for the High Elves, coming in a little bit lighter on the air power with just an Eagle Archmage Light. Does she have... yeah, just Nets and Faw's Protection, interesting. High with Tempest obviously would have been very good here, but it looks like some Sisters of Avalorn in the center. Yeah, 3 Sisters of Avalorn, lots of Silver Helms and Lyrian Reavers to protect Spearmen for a front line. So the Sisters are going to have their work cut out for them. There's a lot of mid-value targets in this army for the Dark Elves, which is definitely a problem. And the Manticores are almost immediately just going to bypass the cavalry in the front line and try and charge these Sisters in the back line. But there still are some reserves of light cavalry to respond. Sisters also have pretty decent melee defense, so they're not going to get absolutely clobbered by the Manticores immediately. It'll take some time for them to get their work done. Nice breath attack on that Spearman in the front line, though, who had Frost protection, otherwise making them quite tanky to the Corsairs' attacks. And yeah, the Sisters of Avalorn, a lot of value dedicated in those range units, and right now they're being fairly well disrupted. Like right here, you could pull those Sisters of Avalorn away from the Manticore and the Reavers, since the Reavers have it all wrapped up. Again, over-blobbing a little bit here as well with some of these Reavers, 2v1 on the Manticore, whereas there's Dark Riders that need to be responded to. The Cairns of Cain did get routed off very efficiently. And yeah, we've got this one Manticore causing problems. It is taking damage over time, but the Sisters could have been firing a little bit more uptime. It looks like we're going to get a net on the Supreme Sorceress. Let's see if the Sisters can all turn and focus fire there. Yeah, they're trying their best. Net doesn't have too long of an uptime. Doesn't look like the Sisters are going to get a lot of arrows off, actually. Yeah, they just countercharge the Hellebred Eye. It's actually kind of awesome, to be honest. But the Silver Helms is trying to best cycle charge the Witch Elves. The infantry for the Dark Elves largely just got absolutely blasted. And yeah, the Sisters are in decent shape still, but that Madness of Cain looks like the Witch Elves are able to get through. Lock down that unit at least with the Enrage effect there. Murderous Prowess already popping off gives Dark Elves a pretty big damage spike at a time when they really need it the most. Supreme Sorceress going to come down and start to terrify away some of these Spearmen and other units. Yeah, the Eagle Mage finally comes back to also help deal with that Manticore. Maybe a little bit late, but unfortunately the Sisters have had very little uptime to use their bows to try and get value. Now taking actual damage. Yeah, we've got this little bust through of the Witch Elves and Corsairs along with the Dragon, definitely causing some pretty major problems for the High Elves. And yeah, multiple Sister units in this kind of little alley right here with the Witch Elves. It's not a place they want to be. Manticore also somehow still alive. Another net going to be cast on the Supreme Sorceress to try and keep her away, but at this point the High Elves are just trying their best to buy some time. Looks like some of the cavalry is coming back, definitely to try and support this. Nice Soul Stealer though, hits a lot of the High Elf units altogether. Manticore's finally been completely wrapped up, and the Sisters do manage to get some volleys in, start to work down that Supreme Sorceress. Of course, fire damage will negate the level of healing from Soul Stealer, but the Sisters have just taken so much damage already. Only one unit really still combat effective, and they're going to get just directly charged by the Sorceress Dragon. Just absolutely the right call. Sometimes the best way to address a threat is just to charge directly at it. Not really a lot to stop the Dragon Sorceress from doing so here. And as a result, the last Sister, which is really the kind of last win condition for the High Elves here, is going to get smashed. And with that, I don't see a way for the High Elves to actually squeak out a win here. Unfortunately, as nice utility as Light has, it's largely useless when it comes to damage output, which really, damage output, in my opinion, is king right now. Even oftentimes over healing, really only summons I would broadly classify as more powerful, but given the way the meta works right now, a lot of the times damage is just the way to go, which is why Soul Stealer is so awesome, is because it's damage and healing together. Especially percentage-based healing from Soul Stealer on a high HP target like a dragon, quite strong. So we'll fast forward a little bit as High Elves try and make their final stand here, but it's looking ever more grim as the Supreme Sorceress comes to just end things herself once more. Getting after the Eagle Archmage there. And some High Elf units trying to rally to the cause, but it's just not nearly enough value. I mean, the Eagle Sorcerer, or the Eagle Archmage is not a pushover by any means, but just can't compete against the Dragon in that kind of a situation. So, well played, Strat Game. and Phoenix King there. Honestly, both. Yeah, this rush build's pretty nasty from Strat Game, I have to say. I approve of a lot of this. Witch Elves managing to get some really nice value, and just the utility, too. The tactical utility of the Witch Elves being able to lock down the Sisters and prevent them from shooting. Super, super useful. Corsairs also very cost-effective. Here, 900 value on the Hellebron Eyes. Quite nice to see. A lot of cavalry from Phoenix King, which is understandable to try and protect all those Sisters. Unfortunately, it still wasn't quite enough, and the Sisters ended up getting engaged by multiple assets here from the Dark Elves. So let's go ahead and get on now to the final. I believe they should be waiting for us, so bear with me just 1 second here. Switch to this. Okay. Okay. Let me just get the scoreboard set up also. So, of course, now on to the final Seagulls versus Strat game for the win and glory and all that jazz. So this setup here. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. I'm going to throw some music on while I get things set up, and we'll be right back. Okay, here we are, ready to get started on the finals for tonight, and we're here live with Strat Game versus Seagau's. We've got two of the strongest factions in the game right now, Chaos Dwarfs and the Ogres, of course. So it should be in for a wild good time, honestly. Definitely is a fun matchup. Hey, thanks for the tenor Strat Game. My pleasure as always. On to the finals indeed. Ah, yes. Oh yes, don't mind the background noise. I'm just removing a few articles of clothing because it's so hot in here. I'm getting a little sweaty, but that's not something you need to worry about. Or maybe you do. Who knows? I won't judge. Here's Slaughter Master of the Great Maw here. For Strat Game, he's got some Lead Belchers, lots of Bulls, lots of Trappers, Regiment of Nouns, Crushers, and some Saber Tusk Pack. Pretty straightforward. You could basically copy-paste this build into most matchups and do just fine. As for Seagau's Chaos Dwarfs here, he's got triple Infernal Ironsworn plus the Blazing Beard's Bazook. We've got Rocket Launcher, two Infernal Castellans, super interesting, plus the Sorcerer Prophet of Metal. Got the Regiment of Renown Chaos Dwarf Blunderbusses here, Granite Guards, and some Skirmish Cavalry, Hobgoblin Wolf Rider Archers. Very interesting stuff. Yeah, the Castellans is an interesting one. And I guess they do have anti-large and melee. They can kind of punch Ogre models, pick at them with their guns, so it makes sense to a degree, but let's see how it goes. Death Shrieker is definitely a decent pick here. Probably just immediately put it onto the Sky Striders. Well, once he has visibility on them. There is no visibility, of course, right now. Don't ask me how a Crusher can hide in the woods, but they can. Let's see what these Skirmish Cavs get up to. Yes, the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders right now. Ooh, look at those dodge. Mostly, they did take some damage there from those Lead Belchers. Mostly dodging that, but they're not really going to have a lot of great targets to go after here, honestly. The Noblar Trappers are going to be just fine at screening, but yeah, those Lead Belchers also getting some nice value initially on the Infernal Ironsworn. So I'm not sure either why the Rocket's not firing. I would think Rocket should be focusing pretty heavily on those Lead Belchers, maybe even pull the rest of the army back a little bit, but Strat Game coming around the flank here with this hidden force of Crushers and Saber Tusk Pack. Let's see, it looks like the Blazing Beards are going to try and turn to respond with their grenades, but they don't get them off in time. Sky Striders are able to get into combat, and it's a nice clash of fire and ice, tiny fire and huge ice. Looks like the Crushers are going to pull away from that engagement there. The Saber Tusk Packs got in, starting to mess up these laborers, so yeah, Strat Game is attacking on a lot of different fronts right now, but he's also taking some damage from the rockets in return, but oh, oof. Seeing an Ironsworn just get shredded like that is so painful. All these Ironsworn just being sent into the teeth of this Ogre build, straight into the maw, if you will. Granite Guards don't have a missile block chance. That is one thing. They trade, you know, their shields for great weapons, obviously. So they're going to take extra damage from the Trappers if the Trappers choose to focus them. But, oh man, that backline. Look at those grenades go off. Just nuke the Saber Tusk Packs here. Sky Strider's not taking so much damage, but the Death Shrieker rocket launcher having some problems as it gets interrupted in melee by those mobile units of the ogres. And then, speaking of mobility, Bulls definitely have pretty solid mobility as well. They're going to be able to come in here, counter smash, Granite Guard, push these Iron Sworn around a little bit, although they're definitely going to get massacred by the Iron Sworn as well. Oh yeah, cool umbrella. Yeah, that was a couple of archers would have done you super good in that matchup, man. That Exalted Great Unclean one is just disgusting. As you know, as a Nurgle enjoyer, you know. Definitely. But here, I'm surprised. I thought, yeah, I mean, the ogres are definitely getting a pretty decisive advantage at this point. They're like 2,000 plus value ahead on army damage value. Sky Striders getting some work done, and they're starting to take out some high value units as well. The Death Shrieker, it's just not, yeah, not really doing a lot. Didn't get a lot of time to fire. And I mean, I guess I like the Death Shrieker to a degree here, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Like, I don't know. I guess you take it to try and respond to the Lead Belchers, but with enough volume of Lead Belchers, it still makes it uncomfortable anyway. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I'm not an expert in this matchup by any means, but I don't know. Maybe I would try and go with like a counter rush style build. Let's see how the Castellans are doing. I like that as an interesting pick. They're doing okay on value. They haven't got a crazy amount of value yet, but it's something. But the Chaos Dwarf build, yeah, it's in shambles right now. Absolute shambles. Chaos, the Infernal Iron Sworn are done, Granite Guard are done, Beards of Bazook and the Castellans are basically the only thing keeping this build together at this point. Regular Chaos Dwarf Warriors aren't going to do much for you, and the Death Shrieker's actually shattered at this point, so it's a tough situation. Nasty, nasty Ogres build for sure. Like I said at the beginning, you can copy-paste this Ogres build into just about any matchup, and it will do pretty well, if not, you know, optimally. It's a very, very well-rounded Ogres build. Covers a lot of bases, and especially against an armored infantry faction, those Lead Belchers are just, they're nasty in mass. And all three of them perform quite well here. Sky Striders don't really do a lot, but they don't really need to. Actually, wow, 800 value and 113 kills on the Sabertusk is pretty impressive. Yeah, I don't know if I totally agree with the build construction here. I'd probably switch some things out. Just don't ask me what exactly. I don't know. Not an expert in this matchup by any means, but let's go ahead and let these guys get their faction picks queued up for the next one. And we'll go ahead and award a point on the scoreboard to Strat Game. Excellent. Just as planned. Okay. Just checking some messages here on the side. People are sending me, letting these guys get their picks rocked up and in. Go ahead and cue up some more music here. Oh, hopefully you guys are doing well. It's been an excellent Friday night. Well, I say excellent. Other than the technical issues, it's been a lot of fun. The battles have been great, for sure. And it definitely needed that after the week I've had. I don't know about you guys, but it was one of those weeks where it just keeps getting piled on. Like right when I feel like I get my head above water, it's like, oh, just kidding. Here's, you know, 6 more hours of work to get done. Yeah, it's been great. But I'm ready for some relaxation time, part of which is, you know, this, obviously. But I am grateful for the weekend this week, for sure. So tomorrow, I'm obviously going to be casting the Clan War. Be sure to tune in for that. NC Clan versus XMT Clan. So that should be a lot of fun. And then yeah, the rest of the day I'm just going to be relaxing, playing some Baldur's Gate, and just generally having a grand old time. And then Sunday, I'm planning on going to a local theme park with my beautiful fiance. And then, again, more Baldur's Gate in the evening. And then it's off to work for the next week. So, lots of fun. Should be a great weekend, honestly. Faction picks are coming in. Looks like Strat Game is picking Bretonnia, Dark Elves, Greenskins, banning Bretonnia, Greenskins, and Tomb Kings. Very interesting. I would probably say if I'm playing, if I'm Seagulls, I'd probably ban Bretonnia and go Cathay. I feel pretty comfortable with Cathay against both Dark Elves and Greenskins. Maybe not. Greenskins are pretty good. They have enough mobility and very cheap armor-piercing anti-infantry. So maybe that one wouldn't be so good, but it's interesting to think through. Cathay, I don't know if they really have any bad matchups, per se. But let's see what Seagulls responds. Lizardmen, it looks like. Okay. Lizardmen versus Dark Elves is one that I would definitely feel less confident with, personally. Historically, I feel like this has been much more of a Lizardman favored, or a Dark Elf favored matchup, but maybe Seagulls got something in his back pocket here that we don't know about. So, let's see. Excellent. Perfect timing on the music there. Now loading in. And it's going to be Dark versus Life. Supreme Sorceress of Dark Magic. Double Manticore once again. We see 3 Witch Elves, 4 Corsairs, 4 Dread Spheres, and 2 Dark Riders with Cairns of Cain. See some Regiment of Renown Croxigors on the other side with that Life Mage. I believe we had some Rippers as well. We'll look at all that in just a minute here when the build loads in. But on the one hand, I really like the Regiment of Renown Croxigors. I feel like they're really strong. On the other hand, they are quite expensive against a faction with good armor-piercing missiles. It feels risky. But let's see how it pays off here. It's not like Strat Game has any missiles whatsoever. He's relying entirely on his melee component here to get the job done, which could be pretty risky. We'll see. Given especially that Seagulls has likewise not taken many missile units at all. I mean, I guess he does have this Ancient Salamander, which is a pretty expensive kind of high micro tech piece. That is a missile unit, obviously, but then like these Javelins are kind of missile units, kind of not really. Also, Rippers. It's got the Colossedons and 1 anti-infantry Ripper also, some Feral Cold ones, Star Chamber Guardians, and Cohort of Waddle with the Life Mage. It's a pretty small build, and I guess that's the biggest weakness to it. It's just a small size, but lots of Feral Cold ones. Balance of Power does not like the Dark Elves right off the bat, which I find quite interesting. Let's see how things go. See how things go. The Ancient Salamander is definitely an interesting one, but it is going to be quite at risk here from various threats. The Colossedon Hunters also, I mean, up in the sky, definitely have their work cut out for them. I might even just hard land them right on top of the Temple Guards just to make like an ultimate anti-large death box. Because up in the sky, as great as their anti-large damage is, they're going to have a pretty tough time against 2 Manticores and a Dragon. So it's a lot of punching power. Meanwhile, speaking of punching power, if you do hard land, then potentially these Kroxigors can come help out with their fists in order to punch foul sky creatures. Yes. Little Ancient Salamander already picking away at some Dread Spears, getting a little bit of value. Tiny bit of value. Really not much to write home about, but now going to be taking a little pot shot at the Corsairs there. A nice hit in the center of that unit. Does a pretty good amount of HP damage, almost 25% HP damage. Wow, that was kind of crazy. And kills a few models as well. Kills a full 7 models, just straight up. That is a pretty good shot right there. So Lizardmen going to be trying to kite. Another Ancient Salamander shot. Wow, great damage on those Dread Spears. As long as Seagoss keeps microing that Ancient Salamander well, it should pay absolute dividends, but he's only going to have so much time to kite here. He's very quickly running up against the edge of the map. He's going to be forced to actually start to take some melee engagements. But, ooh, that was a little bit of a swing and a miss there. Yeah. Strat game pulling his center back ever so slightly as the flank spears advance. Oof, yeah, this Ancient Salamander having a tougher time with making consistent contact now that things are on a little bit of a slope. Let's see if we can get another solid shot right into the center there. Oof, a decent hit. And the Dark Riders charging straight into... Oh man, that's a lot of value just to counterattack some Dark Riders as the Croxy Fisters and 2 Ripperdactyls rush in. Yeah, Seagoss setting himself up for a brutal Soul Stealer. Way over investing in that engagement. And, oh, what happened? Oh no, Strat Game canceled the Soul Stealer to do a breath attack, which means that the Soul Stealer didn't actually go off. Now it's being cast, but Shield of the Old Ones is up, so a lot of those values also ran away. It looks like one of the Rippers full makes it out of there. The other one is still going to get hit a little bit, as are the Cohort of Quaddle here. But let's see. Yeah, up in the sky now. The Ripperdactyls. Oh man, I was going to say, that's a risky engagement for the Supreme Sorceress to take. Although it looks like, yeah, they hit their Toad Rage, and that, or maybe they're getting enraged by the Madness of Cain. Yep. Regrowth and a Rev Crystal on those Glossodon Hunters to keep them alive, though. And this melee engagement, it's hard to tell how it's going, really. A Cohort of Quaddle also in here applying that Dazed Contact effect to a bunch of different units. Yeah, it looks like the Ripperdactyls are going to pay a pretty hefty price here, as they are fairly squishy units to be in a big pitched melee engagement like this. Star Chamber Guardians really need to be here right now to help with this engagement. But Ancient Salamanders, at the very least, made it out somewhat alive. And they're also doing some fairly significant damage to the Dark Elf build here, but not really to the core of it. Like, those 2 Manticores and the Dragon are all still quite healthy. Lots of Witch Elves and Corsairs and other units also still quite healthy, so... Seagoss ahead still on the balance of power, though. Got a lot of healing potential left. Toad Rage being popped here by the Glossodon Hunters, but unfortunately they get terrified away pretty quickly, and yeah, unfortunately, Lizardmen, as much as they might have a lead on the balance of power, I don't love the situation that they're in right now. Another brutal Soul Stealer is going to hit a bunch of Lizardmen units at the same time. Yeah, get some nice value, help finish off the Cohort of Quaddle there, the Feral Cold Ones. Just suffering without any infantry support right now against this massive Dark Elf troops. Witch Elves and Corsairs are not anti-large armor piercing, but they have enough damage. They can certainly get the job done en masse, especially like this. So it's not looking great for the Lizards right now, but perhaps they can pull things back. It's looking very likely to be Strat Game taking home a 2-0 victory on the series, though. Let's see. Yeah, those Star Chamber Guardians just getting completely enveloped also in Corsairs. That anti-infantry bonus definitely coming into play pretty heavily. Salamander lobbing some more shots. I don't hate the pick of the Salamander. I just think the build construction wasn't really set up to make great use for it. It's like this wants to be more of like a melee blob build, but at the same time, like trying to kite with the Salamander, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to kite, just almost invest in, you know, like a full kite build with millions, some mobility to protect, you know, maybe one or even two ancient salamanders. Like you can in the rules, I forget. That's something that's allowed, but just, you know, really emphasize that a little bit more. And I do think it could have done a decent job here. A lot of this Dark Elf army was infantry based, so an effective kite would have left a lot of them in the dust, and they would have been trying to spawn with their own mobility. It gives you good chances to punish overextensions of like manticores and such. But yeah, the build was trying to do both, I think, which is a problem for sure. Dark Elves are taking some hits, though. I mean, a lot of their infantry support has evaporated. These Star Chamber Guardians managed to hold out against all of that massive infantry. Of course, a lot of the dual hand weapon infantry, the Corsairs and the Witch Elves, were already damaged. Yeah, that's a big benefit to knowing how to play a lot of different factions. Strat Game is able to pick from a variety of different factions and play them very effectively, which is definitely a skill that's, I feel like, underutilized these days. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who can play a lot of factions effectively, but a lot of people also specialize pretty heavily in being mains of like 2 to 3 factions, and if they get too far outside of their comfort zone, they can struggle a bit. But speaking of struggle, Lizardmen are not going quietly into that good night, man. These Temple Guards are just hanging on for dear life. Rev Crystal and the Cohort of Waddle also just obstinate and refusing to lose here. Still not sure about their chances in the long run, but I do see a regrowth going off, or something at least. Yeah, oof, little cancel there. A little Earthblood, Shield to the Old Ones, Life Bloom also getting a tiny bit of extra HP there. Soul Sealer is going to be a quick response, though. And can the Rev Crystal keep the Cohort of Waddle alive? Oof, they're having a tough run of it right now, as they're trying desperately to get away from this mass of units. Meanwhile, Blood Statuette of Spite and Lizardmen's own infantry is kind of whittling away at those spears. So again, looking pretty good for the Dark Elves. Lizardmen showing some signs of life here. Little Rev Crystal heal on the Star Chamber Guardians, which is definitely a pretty solid call. They've got quite a bit of healing cap space left, and you know, healing them back up could help the Lizardmen hold out until the end game. Yeah, let's see if it actually resurrects any unit models as well. Vigor refresh. I forget the... Oh, no, it's actually regrowth. Okay, not at the Rev Crystal. Regrowth will restore the models that are there to full HP. It's not going to resurrect any unit models, but especially if you tie the two of them together, you can actually resurrect a decent amount of unit models with the Rev Crystal. A little bit of lags here as the Star Chamber Guardians try and get into combat with the dragon, but at this point, just everyone stay close. You know, keep the Star Chamber Guardians right on top of the Slan and right on top of the Cohort of Waddle. Make sure everyone stays cohesive and together, and just try and hold out against the foul dragon assault. Cohort of Waddle do get shattered here, unfortunately. Dragon cycle charge could take a while, but let's see. I don't know if I would call Lizardmen a meta faction necessarily. Dark Elves, they're very good, but I'd probably put them at A tier. I don't know that I would necessarily put them at S tier. Same for Lizardmen. Lizardmen I'd probably put on A or B tier as well. Not necessarily S tier, but I feel like most factions can do really well if you play them well, but most factions also have some good and bad matchups. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of benefit to just playing the factions that you like, but there's also benefit to learning a lot of different factions and being able to play them effectively. So it's helpful for me because I like a lot of stuff. like I can find something about almost every faction to like, except you know, High Elves. But no, I'm just kidding. Even vampire counts, I can find things to enjoy. Would you consider Lizardmen A tier? I don't know. I'd have to think through the matchups, but yeah, I mean, this Lizardman Death Box, the fact that the Soul Steer is being cast into the Shield of the Old Ones is mitigating a pretty good amount of the damage. Likewise, yeah, I mean, it's gonna take some time to work through everything, but that time also means that it affords the Star Chamber Guardians a chance to heal back up, but Strat Game playing this very patiently. Doesn't want to overextend and take unnecessary risks here. Risk his units getting routed off, because he really needs all hands on deck to defeat these Star Chamber Guardians. And it looks like here comes the engagement from all sides. Nice breath attack in here as well, right when they're all clumped up. So that should just about do it. Yeah, Star Chamber Guardians down. Madness of Cain. Their melee defense is also being debuffed by that Madness of Cain. And so that nice final envelopment, will it be enough? Yep, Star Chamber Guardians actually tear route now, and the Manticore and the Dragon Sorceress can team up to take down that Rev Crystal. Yeah. Lizardmen, I mean, their leadership just doesn't want to give out. I don't know, they're just holding on somehow. Yeah, the Dark Elf Lord prices are kind of all over the place, to be honest. Most of them don't make sense. But Dragon Sorceress used to be like super expensive, and now she's like super cheap for whatever reason. It's a little bit odd. But Strat Game looking like he's putting the finishing touches here, not really taking too many unnecessary risks. And it looks like that's going to be game. So Strat Game on the 2-0 victory does manage to take home the win. Yeah, very well played to all players today. Sorry about those technical issues at the beginning, but we eventually got to and through the entire tournament. And what a pleasure it was. Strat Game taking home the win with that. Yeah, it's 4,000 value on that Dragon Sorceress. She could cost a lot more and still be cost effective, it must be said. Love to see the great performance from the Witch Elves also. It's not a unit always gets a lot of damage, but tactically it's always useful to have the Madness, and definitely yeah, nice to see them actually get the damage that they deserve. Anyway, really nice value on the Croxies, really nice value on the Star Chamber Guardians. The rest of the build, again, the Ancient Salamander still almost ended up paying for itself. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Like I said, you could try and build this into more of a kite-centric build, or try and take more kind of melee blob tools to make that grind even stronger. I don't really know what the best would be. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, without any ranged units, with relatively limited mobility, the kite probably would have been super effective here, but it's, you know, play to win the game and all that. That's it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you are not a subscriber, be sure to subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you once again to Cool Umbrella for organizing and for inviting me to cast. It's been my pleasure. Congrats to Strat Game, and good game also to Seagauze and everyone else for participating today. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.